Let's go.
Welcome to Citizen. We have a very special guest today from Timcast IRL, Ian Crossland.
Hi.
What kind of name is Crossland? Is that like Scottish?
It is, yeah. It's Scotch. I think it's Scotch-Irish or English. There's a Crossland Hills in England. I think it's where they used to crucify people. I used to think my name was for like a traveler. They crossed the land, and then lately I'm like, oh, it's where they had the crosses.
Like the Appian Way?
Did they have crosses all along the Appian Way?
They did. So that's where during the Second Servile Rebellion, when they finally caught Spartacus and all of his people, well, he got killed in battle, but all of his people got crucified along the Appian Way. I think they kind of parodied it in Game of Thrones when they the road into whatever that the slave city that had the mile markers with people like that. That's kind of what they were parodying.
Oh man. I wonder about it. I can't prove that it was where they crucify people. I just want it to be.
Any particular reason why?
Yeah, it's more religious, more like Jesus, more like, oh, okay, now, like the whole like crossing the land was kind of like, you know, what, everybody does that.
I mean, I don't think there's anybody with the last name Traveler.
Yeah, right? There's Blues Traveler, but that was a band.
Yeah, well, they chose that name though, right?
Yeah.
I guess back in the day, everybody would have chosen.
It's a cool
name.
Yeah. What's that?
I said back in the day, everybody would have chosen their names, or maybe they were given to them during the feudal era. If you were a Miller, your name was Miller, right?
Yeah,
I guess.
Smith. That's why there's so many Smiths, because they're all blacksmiths. Yeah. You probably know that.
Are
we live, by the way, right now?
Well, not live, but
not live. If it goes as a pre-tape, pre-record?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
This will be out next week sometime,
nice.
I think. I actually don't know for sure, but
I didn't know if people were salivating in real time or not.
No, I'm sure they're salivating wherever they are.
Yeah, you know it. They're sweating. They're
So let's. Where did you grow up?
Ohio.
Where?
Akron, like Cuyahoga Falls, Northeast. Do you know the area at all?
No.
It was
is it nice there?
Yeah, it is. It was like it was in the 80s. I was born in 79, and so I always thought it was super boring because it was like before the internet. It was just like farmlands 20 minutes to the west, small town, 30, 40,000 people in my hometown, and riding my bike around, flies and bugs in my face, and like a lot of sunlight and like humidity and heat. That was what I remember from like when I was 8, 9, 10, playing out back, throwing wiffle balls. In retrospect, it's one of these beautiful places on earth. It's like middle America to the T. It's
like the
cool.
Shire.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Yeah.
But with the humidity. Maybe there was humidity in the Shire. They never really addressed it.
Right. You know there was, dude.
Yeah.
I wonder if those hobbits evolved so they have their sweat glands and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, they I'm sure they didn't smell great. Just
dude.
like the hygiene at first glance doesn't look like it's super great.
Yeah, now I'm out in West Virginia, and that's more like the Shire. Like,
oh, yeah.
Cuyahoga Falls is kind of more like Smallville or like one of those like, what was that movie where it was all black and white and then it became all color, and it was like not Ethan Embry, but Tobey Maguire was in it.
Oh, Cider House Rules?
No, it was like about a town of like in the 50s, and then all of a sudden everything became colorful, and they were like, what's happening?
Oh, I have no idea. That sounds cool though.
It was like that. It was like a small town from the 50s, and it still is. It's wild the way they preserve Front Street and the river. I don't talk about it a lot because I don't want to blow it up and make people go there and turn it into a tourist spot. But it's beautiful.
Everybody's migrating now. We've been in a period of migration for, what would you say, 6 years, 7 years? I mean, I don't know how much was happening before 2020, but definitely that kicked it off. And now it's like democratic tax policies are doing it.
Yeah, economic pressures. Yeah. I was doing it for fun in the 2000s. Like I went to LA, New York, Chicago, LA. I just wanted to taste all the big cities. And now I'm starting to slow down and settle down. But still, I like to travel. Do you travel a lot? You go to like foreign places? Japan?
I mean, I like going to new places, but I also like going to places one place that I haven't been to yet that I want to go is Japan, but I've been to pretty much everywhere else I've wanted to go, and now it's like which places I want to go back to. So I really like Italy, like going there. Depends on the mood and the reason I'm going. If I'm going to relax and vacation, I think Italy, because the food and the vibe, if you want to call it that, is super slow. It's good for relaxing. If I'm more looking to do outdoor stuff, it's Ireland or Scotland, probably, depending on the time of year, because sometimes it sucks there.
I went to Scotland once, and it was rained for like 2 weeks straight.
Yeah, sometimes it sucks, but when it's not raining, it's beautiful. I mean, it's beautiful when it's raining too. But then I like Iceland as well. Just never got to see the northern lights up there, so I'm trying. That's something that I'm planning, right, or trying to plan, because the best time to the peak season, typically right now, at least in the last 10 years, is the third week of September.
Okay.
So that's like right in football season, and we do a sports show, so it's been difficult. But I mean, honestly, from the East Coast, it's only like a 6-hour flight to get up there, so it's not bad now. It's like flying to California or something, right? So probably just do a long weekend at some point to go up there.
What is like of all the things you've learned from all the travels? What is there one thing that stands out as like, whoa?
Yeah, I think the thing that stands out the most is that in the West, there's people are very adaptable to not necessarily to culture specifically, but to, I don't know, how, like, the timing of how you go about your day. People seem to, whatever the conditions are in the area that you're living in, people seem to like build their life around it one way or another. And I think that's true of most people. It's just like some like Eastern culture is a lot older, and they don't really change much. You know what I mean? Western culture, unless you're talking about like Eastern Europe or something like that, but even they're coming along now, changes pretty frequently. So I think it's interesting to see. For example, I was in Italy in 2014, and I did this gastronomy tour. It's like 3 locations. The first one is a lemon grove. This is in south of Sorrento in a village called Massalabrense. And we go to a lemon grove first, show us all around, make us lemon stuff, give us limoncello, blah, 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 all that stuff. Next stop is a creamery that's right next door, and these people's families have lived next door to each other for hundreds of years and done these things, lemon grove and creamery. The guy makes provolone del Monaco, which you can only get there, in front of us, and then we eat that. And then we go to a pizzeria right down the street that's been owned by the same guy forever, right? And he and his old ass wife just show us how to make pizzas the Italian way. And she actually wrote down her red sauce recipe for me on a fucking piece of paper, and I still have it at my house. And that's the recipe I use, this old lady in Italy. But like that, you could see some stuff changing, right? A lot of the farmland and stuff in Italy, more so in the north than in the south, but it's coming, is being bought up by Chinese companies and stuff, especially vineyards. And they're like the Italian is a craftsman, right? They're a hipster. And then the Chinese person or the Chinese company is mass production. That's what they care about. And it's not a great marriage. You know what I mean? So you see the struggle between them. You see, it's not like they're rejecting modernity because they have all the tech that we have. It's that they want to maintain craftsmanship, and it's been difficult to try to. The companies that invest in them want them to scale, obviously, so they can make more money. And they're like, well, I will only scale to the point where I can continue to guarantee the quality of my product. And I think that's really interesting.
This making me think about Iran. Came up last night, and I've been thinking about Iran and constantly Iran. But like before the Shah got into power in like the 50s, before they overthrew the CIA overthrew Mossadegh, which was their president or their prime minister, whoever he was. Then the Shah came in and he started to modernize. He started bringing corporations, and their culture at the time was like street vendors, craftsmen, and then so the corporations came in and disrupted and displaced the craftsmen, and that's a big part of why there was a revolution on the street. The common man was pissed off that they were selling out to the West, to the white man or whatever. And then I thought about, like, you just mentioned Chinese farmland. Last night on IRL we were talking about it, and they were like, how dare the Iranians attack? Why do they hate us? They hate us for our freedoms, George Bush says. I'm like, well, okay. The reality is they hate us because the British and whoever went in there, we stole their oil, and then we overthrew their government in the 50s. That's why they hate us. So, like, what Mossadegh was trying to do was like seize that back. Like and you brought up Chinese farmland. So if our government was to say we're going to seize all the Chinese farmland in the United States that these people bought legally, and we're going to redistribute that land to the people, I would be okay with that.
Yeah, I mean, look, one of the reasons that a lot of these companies are coming, they're disengaging from China and coming here to do their manufacturing work to some degree. A lot of it's in Mexico. So Mexican labor is 1/3 the cost of Chinese labor now, which is very interesting. But one of the reasons you see all these deals being made about with car companies that are moving their production here, it's partly about tariffs, but it's the technological part, where they're moving some of their technological headquarters to include TSCM from Taiwan to build chips here and stuff. 2 plants actually are getting built here. Now, they wouldn't have had a deal with China necessarily because they're adversarial, but a lot of these countries did, to include Saudi Arabia, who's planning on investing quite a bit of their manufacturing infrastructure here. The reason is because I can speak for just the U.S. The Chinese government steals somewhere around $600 billion in intellectual property from us every year. That's the price tag that's put on it. And it's true of every country. Germany sends a lot of stuff to get made there as well, and they're a big economy, the biggest in Europe. And it's what happens is very clear. You put a product into you develop your product, you put it into Chinese hands for production. They rip it off and sell it on Alibaba for 20% less than what you're selling it for, and that's a fucking problem, right? So people come to the United States to do their business because we have actual fucking laws that protect trademarks and intellectual property. And of course, a system like that, just like any other system, is going to be abused from time to time. And the Chinese have definitely tried to abuse that system to wedge themselves in to American companies. And the farmland thing is crazy. That's just there's a couple of things that are intrinsically tied to national security outside of the military that we just don't always think about, right? Energy is definitely one of them. Food is one of them. Energy, food, water, anything. If you just look at the base of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, the stuff that you need to stay alive, that is all national security related, especially in today's world. So the idea that we've ever allowed China to even invest in something like that, knowing what we know about them, is fucking wild to me.
Yeah, it is, man, and it mirrors what Mossadegh and the Iranians were going through in the 50s. I think, I feel like he was the good guy trying to take his national resources, his national security back from the corporations that legally bought it. The British did do whatever they did legally when they bought all that oil. They set up the British Petroleum, or the what was it called? The Anglo Oil, whatever their oil company was. They were siphoning.
It was the British Iranian Oil Company.
British Iranian Oil Company. And so it just mirrors with what's going on with the Chinese today. And I feel like if we were to seize the property, I feel like we would be in the right. And then it makes me think, well, maybe Mossadegh was in the right. And I know that we're not always the good guys every step of the way. And it's not about good and evil. It's about power and authority and righteousness and.
Well, some of it is about. It's always to some degree about power, and it's like what amount of power do I need to take so that I can secure the security, or so I can secure the people in my charge, right? So if you think about reduce it to a smaller level, we're in a village, and I own this piece of property. Well, that's something, but that means if I only protect that piece of property, that means somebody can walk all the way up to the edge of my property and attack me from right there. That's not okay. Okay, because people fucking live there. This is the problem that Israel always has, because it's a fucking small place the size of New Jersey, and right next door is a fucking 25 square mile Gazan population that wants to fuck them up all the time. So, this traditional way to handle that is to build DMZs, or what in the military we call it standoff, right? Or even in the security industry. So I don't know what the new rules are. They change them from time to time. But in security management, typically, if you've got a building you're trying to secure, there's a couple of key rules that you have to follow. One is that you want to have at least one lumen 18 inches off the ground. So it needs to be lit up so you can see, right? And the other one is you want at least 25 meters of space between the edge of your building, not your property necessarily, but the edge of your building and any kind of tree line that might be used to mask an approach or something like that. These are just basic things, right? Now, if you expand that out to your entire country, what does that mean? Because people are very critical. And look, our government has done nothing to gain our trust with regard to how it deploys forces or conducts war. Let's be fucking clear about that. Over the last 25 years, it's been a catastrophe. But strategically speaking, having bases in other places is something that is required. That's just, like the first time we ever deployed our military was to deploy the Navy to take down Barbary pirates who were enslaving white Europeans and white Americans, right? And fucking with our boats. Don't touch our boats. That's where that meme comes from, because it's literally the first time the United States government ever launched a military operation outside of this country. So to the people who argue that foreign bases or these types of deployments aren't under the purview of the executive, or that the founders would have some problem with this, I mean, that's demonstrably untrue. It's just not true, right? They will lean on Washington saying he doesn't want foreign entanglements, but Washington was a Federalist. He would have been a lot more likely in today's world to launch a military campaign than, say, Thomas Jefferson would, right? Who was quite a bit more libertarian. And Thomas Jefferson was the first president to deploy troops to a foreign theater like that. And it was the Navy to stop the Barbary pirates from enslaving our people. So, it's something to consider. I don't want people to, I don't want you to get so lost in either your distrust of government or your trust in one particular member of it, like the current president, that you abandon the idea of what military strategy must look like. You know what I mean? Like, there's a reasonable solution here, and sometimes your guy's going to be right, and sometimes your guy's going to be wrong. And we spend too much time yelling across the aisle, saying, hey, the Democrats did this or the Republicans did this. If you spent more time governing your side, you would be much better off, right? Because then you would have actual conservatives. I don't know when the last time a so-called conservative in office did anything conservative in this country.
Massey, maybe that guy. He just says no to stuff, which is pretty conservative.
Yeah, I mean, saying no to stuff is something. He's, like most libertarians, has no legitimate opinion on foreign policy, right? That's just not. But that's fine. People are critical of that, but that's not what libertarianism is for. Libertarianism is for domestic conduct. It's a complement for domestic conduct. It has nothing to do with foreign policy, which is you can see that from Jefferson. He wanted government small, but he still wanted to be able to raise a navy and go fuck somebody up if they were touching our shit. You know what I mean? He found a balance. I think there's a couple of like, I don't know if you would say prominent, but there's a couple of libertarians around these days that I think do a much better job at, I don't know, like Austin Peterson.
Yeah, I like that guy.
Yeah, he calls it libertarian nationalism, which is, a different distinction. Now, there are right-leaning libertarian people as well that are fine with border policy and certain types of foreign involvement and stuff like that. It's just weird to me that the people who, this cohort of libertarians who all voted for Trump and campaigned for him even in the last election cycle in 24, would call themselves right-leaning libertarians, but they've taken the left position on a lot of these things, and I can't figure out why. I mean, some of these folks too. What do you think that is?
Yeah, I was actually going to contact Clint Russell, for instance, friends of mine, like Luke Rudkowski. I was actually hanging out with them, being like, yeah, let's go. Free Ross Ulbricht, and he did. And I'm like, oh, my God, this is awesome. Lynn Ulbricht, I know Ross's mother. Why? I think that it's a type of short-sightedness, and it's not like a dig. It's just when you look locally and when you're focused locally and on, like, stay off my lawn, I want my own, then you forget that, what's happening upriver. You got to think like what's happening 70 miles away. We have intercontinental ballistic missiles now. You got to stamp down on the enemy before the enemy stamps down on you. To
some degree, but you also have to make friends, right? Like, I mean, this is too often the solution for these problems is the hammer, and I don't think that's always necessary. Because right now, I mean, look at the Abraham Accords, for example. The action that we're conducting in Iran right now would not be possible without them. in my opinion. Or at least it would be quite a bit more difficult, and it would be a lot more fucked up for our people who are deployed out there. Should we not have some support from Saudi Arabia, Jordan, UAE, Bahrain, etc.?
I'll be honest, I don't know what they are. Have you read them? Do you know exactly what it does? Is it a defensive pact?
It's not a security agreement. No, it's just like it is just a non-adversarial agreement on paper.
It's like a non-aggression pact,
more or less. Yeah. There's no guarantee. It's not like France, for example, has its own separate accord with Bahrain, UAE, and I don't remember if Saudi Arabia is involved in it. But they had to deploy the Charles de Gaulle, which is one of their battle carriers. And because of that, because Iran started hitting some of their friends, so they have to send somebody now, right? So that's a security agreement. That's like a NATO Article 5 kind of situation. I don't think the Abraham Accords has anything like that. It's more just like, hey, we're going to have trade, and we're not going to allow each other to get attacked by people. And I don't know what that means, because there's no language. There's no like Article 5 that gets triggered in the Abraham Accords where you have to do something. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But just the idea that everybody's on more or less the same side, I guess you could say, is pretty interesting. So one of the Iranian foreign ministers today, or well, I guess technically it was last night, but for us today, says that they're going to blow up any ships that carry oil through the Strait of Hormuz and stuff like that. Okay. That's something. I mean, to me, that's like the last straw for Gulf countries that haven't yet joined the fight, because Saudi Arabia, UAE, Iraq, and Kuwait, in addition to Iran, send at least 10% of their oil through there, their export oil. And China, India, South Korea, Japan, etc., broader Asia, China gets 40% of their oil through Hormuz. India, 15%, and they're our ally. South Korea, 12%, they're our ally. Japan, 11%, and they're our ally. It's a lot of oil. Now, we can undercut this by simply sending Venezuelan oil west, to East Asia, but that doesn't help our Gulf partners who depend on that revenue, especially Saudi Arabia, they're in a bit of a bind economically right now. So, without that kind of pact in place, you know what I mean? And this is all part of a longer process of developing foreign policy. You know, you find chilled but repairable relationships and start to repair them, and then you find common goals, and then if they present themselves, common enemies as well, and it strengthens the ties over time. And you know, nothing speaks like the dollar, right? There's fundamentalism, and then there's the dollar,
like legit fundamentalism,
yeah.
Basic economics,
yeah, not like religious fundamentalism,
yeah, like transportation of goods, the most fundamental importance on earth,
yeah. And that's part of it, man. I mean, that's the reason we created the Navy in the first place was to protect our stuff and our people globally. That's the reason the Navy exists.
They even call them goods. Good. It is the word good. Like they use that word to describe it is that important.
Yeah.
But they call them good.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. And I think, yeah, we definitely have to have some sort of military presence or partnership wherever our stuff and people are going to go. But military presence is part of it, and then partnership is the other part. And the partnership part is the one we've not done well. Yeah. Over the past 40 years, we've not held NATO accountable. They've done nothing, right? NATO has, aside from the UK and some other countries and like Iraq and Afghanistan and stuff, but I'm talking about the defense of Europe specifically, which is what NATO was created for. NATO was not created to go to fucking Iraq and Afghanistan. It was created to defend Europe from Russia and China and shit like that. And, you know, it's been a pain in the ass to get them just to spend the minimum amount of money on it. So we've done a very poor job, not just of developing allies, but of holding them accountable. That's been a problem for us. The military stuff we can always handle because we have the best tech, we have the best fighters and all this stuff. But I think the part that people think of foreign policy in terms of the military, but foreign policy is more about relationships than anything else.
You said earlier, like, friends, we need friends. And I was thinking before I came over here about alliances and friendship and how they're not the same thing. You can have a very strong alliance with someone that you can't stand and be excellent allies.
That's the thing I think people overlook about our relationship with Israel the most, because some of the stuff they do upsets people. Having AIPAC, for example, which is not necessarily aligned with the government. AIPAC is run by American Jews, which are primarily leftists, to be frank, right? And like 65% of Israeli Jews are pretty far to the right. You know what I mean? Just out of necessity. But people read them as the same because that's how people are. And it rubs them the wrong way. It rubs them the wrong way that some foreign country would try to influence our politics, and it should. I don't like that either. I don't like it when Qatar does it. Nobody has any. None of the libertarians complain about Qatar for some reason. I don't know why, but yeah, that's not great. But still, you have to you have to be able to. You have to be able to do what you said. Like, I don't like what these people are doing. I might not like them as individuals, but I see the strategic value of this relationship.
Yeah, and an alliance today could be broken tomorrow. You don't have to maintain alliances. They come and they go when you need them.
And that's Trump's actually been really good about that. When Israel does something dumb or tries to do something dumb, he either stops them or lights their ass up in public when they do it. Like last week they hit those Iranian fuel depots, and he was like, "What the fuck are you doing, man? No, whomever takes over that country moving forward, they're going to need that oil to restart the country. You're trying that move you made is going to contribute to a failed state. Should a failed state happen, that's stupid. That's not. You don't want a fucking failed Iran with a bunch of 60% enriched uranium still underground there. That's fucking stupid. No, we need to fucking bomb assholes until somebody reasonable steps up, right? And that's how it works. So it's like, but you can't. There's certain things you can't do. It's not Gaza, right? There's no version of Gaza where, in my opinion, where it becomes reasonable. But the Persian people are different. They are quite a bit different than the Arab people. And I think a lot of this stuff comes from a gross misunderstanding of who those people are and who their cutouts, who the Islamic regime is and who their cutouts are, right?
Yeah, they don't really have a lot of Iranians in the media that I know of. Like, I don't know any prominent Iranian people, and I'd like to, that could represent the normality of the Persian state.
Yeah.
When you said the diplomacy, because I was talking about destroying your enemy before your enemy destroys you, and you're like, well, but we need friends, and you're right. Like, I spent the first 30 years of my life obsessively diplomatic, friendship over everything, probably to the point where if I had been in office, I would have been one of the people that was like, oh, NATO, it's okay, like, let's appease, let's make sure we all get along first. That's the most important thing. And at some point, Trump comes in and drops the hammer. But like, do you think we could set up, because we have diplomacy throughout the United States, we do pretty well, where we get along with every state in the union, gets along to the point where we haven't gone to war in 150 years, 180 years. Can that happen on Earth? Do you foresee it? Do we need common language? My concern with the common language, and I'll try and quit talking in a second, unless you answer all these questions. But like, if there was one language on Earth, that'd be bad, because someone could change a definition to one of the words behind the scenes, and then we'd all be fucked. So having a lot of languages is important, but one language, like in Dungeons and Dragons, you ever play D&D? Well, in D&D, there's a language. Every race, like the dwarves speak Dwarven, the elves speak Elvish, but everybody speaks what's called Common. And I think that's English.
The common tongue.
Yeah. And humans speak Common, and that's their main language. But I think it's supposed to represent English, and how English has sort of been taking over the planet over the last 100, and especially since the internet and radio and television, Hollywood and all that. And I wonder if ceding English to every human on Earth, if every human on Earth knew English in addition to whatever else, that we would actually be able to have a global diplomacy.
I think that might be a good step. I mean, the things that you need to communicate our language and culture, right? So even if you have the same language, what does the word respect mean here, and what does it mean in Afghanistan? You know what I mean? It doesn't mean the same.
The Russians, where we look for world peace, the Russians seek world calm. They want calm. That's their version of peace, is calm.
Yeah, I think we human beings are on very different timelines. You know what I mean? As far as the development of their culture, I don't know that Islamic culture could ever catch up, because I don't think it wants to. You know what I mean? Like what the moderate version of Islam is just like not strong enough to defeat the radical version of it because it's so doctrinal. The idea, I don't even think Islam is a religion. Frankly, I think it's like a colonial political movement that calls itself a religion.
That's what I've been going through lately, dude. I think that the caliphate came in and politicized it. Like Muhammad was a spiritual dude. He probably talked to God and had like revelations and told a lot of people about it, and they believed him. And he like was like, yes, there is one God. And they're like, oh, this is kind of cool, actually. And then the caliphate, after he died, they're like, all right, let's take this, let's make it what we want it
Well,
to.
he
Let's
invaded 3 cities and took them over during his lifetime.
Yeah, he was a warlord for sure, forcing people to submit, which has its connotations. You know, the Catholic Church did a lot of that too, and at some point, but he also did unify, you know, under violent. He was also like, you know, a Bedouin, you know, in exile, abused and like persecuted through his life. So he was like lived in war, and he was that whole war. But like, it is wait, what was the first thing I said that I brought up about that? I don't know.
Well, the idea of
the caliphate came in after his death and politicized, just like the Catholic Church sort of made a business out of religion, and that I wonder if the caliphate did that too.
Well, I mean, to some degree, they probably hyper focused on certain parts. I mean, you know, there's no call for global domination in Judaism or Christianity. It's not a thing, right? But there is in Islam. There isn't even in Shinto. There isn't. It's just like Shinto is very racist.
Is that militant Buddhism?
No, well, to some degree it is, but Shinto is worship of the sun, and Japanese people are all children of the sun, and everybody else is a fucking mongrel. That's what they believe, right? It's very seldom practiced anymore. But in Imperial Japan, that was the main religion. But it still wasn't about world domination. It was more about like we're the best, and everybody else should serve us. But serve us from over there. You know what I mean? These like totalitarian concepts are they're not unique to Islam, but for religion they're unique. There's no other religion that has any kind of doctrinal requirement to overtake other people. It's not a thing.
It's so intense. Like I don't know if crazy is the right word, but it feels like I cannot verify that a militant force took over a benevolent methodology, because like from what I've heard, Muhammad empowered women of the time. It was like 700 AD. Women were dog shit, and he was like, you know, we'll give them the ability to run the economics of the household, which was like a breakthrough for female liberation of the time. And then 100 years later, the caliphate's putting them all in burqas and like treating them like slave class again. And like what happened? Something maybe happened there. I don't know.
Yeah, it's hard to say. I mean, you know, we had our own period of dark ages, frankly. I guess the difference is, I mean, if you look at the development of Islam over the years versus the Christian so-called dark ages, there was an institutional fight primarily from people within the church, actually, to keep the liberty movement alive. Like there's plenty of reading on this, but there's this period between the fall of the Western Roman Empire in the 4th, 5th century, and the showdown at Runnymede between King John and the barons, right, that led to the Magna Carta, where the church, a lot of like, not Catholic Church, but a lot of Christian people who didn't know it yet, but were trending towards Protestantism, which wouldn't come along for a little while, were keeping these ideas of like natural law and the Logos alive. They were fighting against the so-called divine right of kings, basically. So the path of Islam never had that. There's no like unique individual or group or set of individuals or series of people who kept the idea alive of modernizing the ideas of Islam into like the 5 pillars instead of just a global caliphate. You know what I mean? There isn't that. It doesn't exist.
Yeah,
you see a lot of atheists who used to be Muslims that do that. Like Salman Rushdie or Ayaan Hirsi Ali or somebody like that, that more modern. I'm sure those people existed at some point back in the day as well, but they're not like practicing Muslims who are like, we need to fix this. We need to fix this. Throughout history, starting in the 7th century, it's just not a thing, right?
I don't think it is.
No,
I haven't heard of it.
It's definitely not a thing.
Did they just try and get killed in silence or something? Is this? I've
I
never
mean,
even seen
probably, right? I mean, who kept who kept the record of Islamic history? It would be the people who tried to establish a caliphate every couple of years. You know what I mean? I can't imagine they were allowing too many dissonant voices out there. But yeah, the point of all of that was, I don't know that Islam could ever get there, but I feel like Asian culture could. It's just like you have to decide to do it. So there has to be a spark of something there. It's like we got lucky in the West. Aristotle articulates the idea of natural law, doesn't know it at the time. Aristotle's like not exactly a friend to the plebs, and he definitely doesn't like minorities or women, right? He's kind of an asshole. But he articulates the idea of natural law. Seneca takes it and talks about the logos, you know what I mean? Like this is his idea of God is this natural force or whatever, and it's a you could articulate it, I guess, as a set of laws, the laws of the universe, but also moral law, and that's what God is, right? And sometime concurrent or before this, depending on where you map it out, the Jews add the idea of individual identity. We are made, they're the first people to say this, we're made in the image of God, right? And the Christians give you Jesus, the example of that. He's the perfect man. He's the guy that has all the power, like theoretically all the power in the world, but because it's meaningful, risks and sacrifices anyways. He's strong, but he ministers to the weak. He doesn't hold his strength over somebody. He uses it to help people. It's written, whether or not he existed literally or not, to me, it doesn't matter. I'm sure it does to religious people, but that's the contribution, is the best man possible. So you get individual identity, natural law, the idea that it's somehow deified or above us, and then the man that you can follow and be all those things. You know what I mean? That's Western civilization. And still, from that point, it took us 1,200 years, 1,500 years, if you go back to Aristotle, to get to a king actually agreeing to it and signing it, the Magna Carta. It took 1,500 years. Even having all of this stuff, it took us 1,500 years to get to the point where we could demand a king agree to that. And then it took us another 500 plus years after that to write a constitution that reflected it for a full country, not just the barons, but for every man. You know what I mean? It took us 2,000 years to do this.
And this was because of advancements in technology. Like, I'm thinking of all the barons and the dukes that rose up against King John, and like, how did they actually had?
I mean, feudalism was what caused that. So the, the king or kings, not John specifically, but kings leaned more and more on feudal lords to handle different parts of the country because the empire was growing too large to manage on their own, and the feudal lords were building armies of their own. It's the same thing that happened in Rome. During the early part of the Republic was in charge. But then these, rich Roman generals would go out and fight wars on Rome's behalf with their consent, with the Senate's consent, and they would build their own armies. And the armies started to become loyal to the man who paid them, not to the Republic anymore. That's how Julius Caesar was able to build 10 legions. You know what I mean? Pompey before him. It's not just Caesar. People give Caesar a lot of shit, but Pompey had a fuckload of legions, and that's the only reason. Pompey was a pleb. He wasn't even born in the purple, and he became. He was in the first triumvirate, and he was consul after that. So, this is what happened in the broader West as well later on. After there was a consolidation of power under the Roman Empire, but then once another empirical country came around, and this wasn't like the height of England's empire or anything. I think they almost got overtaken by Spain a couple times during this period, but they were launching crusades and shit. So they were doing colonial shit to some degree, and it becomes too large to manage, right? They're also pushing into Scotland and stuff and taking over some of those areas. So yeah, you have to lean on the barons to manage those pieces of property. And then, of course, the people that live there, all they know about the king is that's the guy that keeps taxing us, right? There's no like relationship between the individual and the crown during that period. It was only between you and the baron had a relationship with the crown.
Yeah, or like his count, which has a relationship with his duke, which has a relationship with the crown. It becomes so decentralized. And they didn't have the technology to like. It's the same with, I mean, all these empires that break down because of the lack of technology. What you brought up was the Asian religions having a reformation earlier. I believe that, dude.
I believe they could. I mean, there's nothing that this is my point. There's nothing in their religions that says that can't happen.
Dude, Taoism, the flow is it's magnetism. I feel like they were talking about electromagnetism before they knew what it was.
Sure.
And it flows through you and you move with it and in the effortless momentum that comes along with going with nature. And now with science, you could turn that into the most epic explanation of the magnetic fluctuation of the human spirit.
Yeah. Yeah, I think a lot of those early religious observations were about the natural world. They just didn't know how to articulate it, right? I mean, what did any technology sufficiently advanced appears like magic to the observer?
Yeah. Or Asimov? Was that Asimov that said that?
No, it's Arthur
C. Clarke.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. And that's the thing. We're on a different timeline. So I wonder, one of the things I wonder about is what is our responsibility? Like we know that nation building is not a thing. That's not a thing that we can do because you cannot give freedom to someone. They must earn their freedom. And it took us 2,000 years of Western civilization from the first person the first group of people who talked about individual identity and natural law. It took us 2,000 years from that point, a little over actually 2,000 years, to get a country that observed that for all of its people. And even then, it wasn't for all of its people because black people and women couldn't fucking vote. You know what I mean? So it took us another, 200 years after that to really get it right.
And one of the crazy is France, the way because they did it. They're like, oh, hey, the Americans had a revolution. Now they have a republic. Let's do it. So they tried to do it. And then I don't know what happened, but then Napoleon was like,
they were an aristocratic revolution. So it would have been more like the Magna Carta. They weren't exactly handing out freedom to plebs there. That's why Washington refused to take part in it, in my opinion.
Interesting.
That's why, yeah. Like Jefferson wanted to do it because he was like, they supported our revolution. We should support theirs. And maybe if it was a revolution of the plebs, we would have, because having another constitutional republic in Europe would have been a really good thing for us instead of what they had, which were parliamentary monarchies at the time. That would have been great for us, especially France, who was a great military partner at the time. And to be honest, had it been a pleb rebellion, wouldn't be shocking if one happened in England right after that. And you have two constitutional republics over there instead of what the shit that they have now. Both of those countries are just fucked. But, they didn't. They chose wrong. And we happened to choose right. And I say happened, not that it was a coincidence, but you and me and everybody that's alive today are very lucky that we had Washington and Adams and Madison and Jefferson specifically, those four guys. Because otherwise we're fucked.
Dude,
otherwise we're the UK right now. And I don't mean literally. We may have broken apart, but we would have an aristocracy if it weren't for those men.
Thomas Jefferson's Ben Franklin's probably my spirit animal, but I love them all so much. George Washington, Thomas. I've been thinking about Thomas Jefferson because he was like a musician, and he was like, I gotta do politics because the world needs it, right? The world needs me, and so he wrote the fucking Constitution. What do you do? Like lock himself in a house for a week?
The Declaration of Independence.
Yeah, the Declaration.
He locked himself in a room for 96 hours by himself. He wrote the whole thing. Adams and Franklin helped edit some of it later. But he wrote the whole thing from scratch.
And he was like a protege of Ben Franklin, like a buddy of his, and like this young genius that Ben Franklin was like, oh, this is the guy.
Yeah.
I don't know, did he come from money?
Jefferson?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was wealthy. Third generation farm, I think, that was doing pretty well. Yeah.
You mentioned nation building, how it doesn't work. And I'm wondering, because I think what we're going to do is send a corporation to Mars and start building a nation on Mars But it's not. We're not going into a nation and overthrowing it and trying
Right.
to turn it into something new. We'll actually be starting from scratch.
No.
But I'm concerned it's going to be corporations and it's not going to be
More than
governments.
likely it will be, because what private citizen will be able to afford anything like that? And do you think a corporation is going to invest that kind of money without some control over the outcome?
Oh, man, that's what I'm wondering.
Right? I mean, that's just reasonable. I'm not blaming the corporation for it. I'm just like, I'm diagnosing that issue. You know what I mean?
They got this corporate governance stuff coming out of the World Economic Forum, ESG, and
ESG is getting hammered right now.
I know,
which is nice.
I wonder. I think that the antidote might be to create a corporate government with Elon, with X, with the whole this opportunity to sort of like put the American ideals in it, and then legitimately set up a country and maybe give the people freedom, like have it written into the code that you'll get autonomy.
Yeah. I mean, the thing that you can affect most is culture. So, like, there's actually, I don't know if I could find it or not, but I remember there was a Fox News. I was deployed to Iraq. It was 2007, and we're out on patrol, and some Fox News ladies interviewing me about this. I'm like, this is fucking pointless. Like, there's no version of this where I come to this poor dude's country and tell him how to live his life. No, you can't do that. You can't give somebody freedom that doesn't understand it. You know what I mean? Because unless you pay the price for it, and we see that even with, multi-generational families that pay the price to get here, but their kids don't, and their kids turn out to be shitheads. You know what I mean? It's built into our culture. We're lucky. This like Scotch, Irish, Appalachian fuck you attitude is deep in our culture. And it's not just those people who possess it. It's everybody that comes into contact with them is like, you know what? Yeah, fuck those guys. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that I was thinking about like Nate, like we are as Americans sort of an amalgam of the Romans that settled in England plus the Vikings. We're like a Roman Viking hybrid.
Yeah, that's right. So we have all like the Western civ, the law, the common law, but we also have a fucking battle axe.
And the willingness to crawl through mud. Did the military? Did you always want to do it, or
yeah?
And did it help you? Did it change you and make you like what did it do exactly? Like what did it give you? What did you get?
It allowed me to put theory to test. Because we all have these ideas about what a good man is, what masculinity is, and stuff like that. When you're in charge of other people, just in war in general, but then when you're in charge of people that are just a few years younger than you in a combat situation, it changes the way you think about things, in my opinion. If you do it right, it definitely should. You recognize that, multiple things can be true at once. This 19-year-old with this machine gun is a weapon for me, right? But he's also a human being that has needs. And just like my car, if I keep the tires inflated and the oil changed and the tires aligned and the fucking tank full of gas, he's going to operate well. But if I don't take care of those things, then this tool for me doesn't, right? Now that all sounds really, I don't know, cold and logistical. So you have to back up for a moment and admit to yourself that you're also a human being. And I've got to talk to this man who, he might look like a kid to me, but he's a man. I have to talk to him in a way that recognizes that he's a human being, but I'm also preparing him for fucking war, right? And everything I learned there about doing that shaped my life. It takes time to adjust and tailor that back to the regular world, because I can't you treat everybody a little bit differently. It's not true that you treat everybody the same, because people have different needs. Some people need to get fucking knife-handed and yelled at, and some people need a pat on the back, right? It just depends on what the situation is. And the thing that was difficult for me was learning how to translate that knowledge back into a normal life. And then the next step of that obviously was translating it on to mentoring children, literal children, right? So, what I found is the principles are all the same. People have needs. They learn more through example than they do through lecture, right? So the thing that I learned most was to give basic instruction, do the right thing and do it aggressively, and wait for questions. And then when they have questions, I explain to them exactly why I did what I did. And maybe they copy exactly what I did, or maybe they have a better idea, right? But if you don't teach people, this is whether it's your kids or your employees or whatever the fuck, if you don't teach them the underlying logic behind what you're doing, they can never improve on what you've done. They can only copy it. And that's a mistake, right? That's a mistake. That's how civilizations die.
So did most of command understand that you want to explain the logic to your men?
No. Come on, man. We don't exactly send. I don't think our best and brightest are officers, which is a problem. You know what I mean? The way that we select military officers is just like, do you have a 4-year degree? That doesn't mean shit to me. I don't understand that. As a matter of fact, I don't know that officers should be in charge of guys in battle at all. Because if you look at tier 1 units like DevGru or Delta, that's not the case. They have their senior non-commissioned officers are in charge of tactical shit. The officers are doing intel and logistics and other stuff like that, right? Personnel management. Fine with that. Do that. That's having a college degree and being good at writing stuff and doing paperwork is very useful for that job. For going out on the street with me and kicking doors down. And I'm not saying there's not, I've had plenty of officers that are great door kickers, many of whom went on to special forces and tier 1 units. But the way that we select them is weird. So, right, you get a guy who's in the organization, but off the front, who's making decisions for the front. And it doesn't make sense to me. It never has. So no, we don't do that. And it's the same thing in government too, right? I mean, the way that we should want this all to work is to have a guy who's lived a life and done well for himself come take that lesson to Washington and be like, hey, I know this is the way things are done, but here's how business actually works. I mean, look at how wildly successful Scott Bessent and Donald Trump have been with economic policy. Right. And all the experts are like, oh, tariffs are going to create runaway fucking inflation and blah, blah, blah. None of it happened because these men have run businesses. Scott Bessent has managed more currency than anybody in the federal government, to include Jerome Powell. Like actually managed, not just fucking checked a box somewhere. So it's, I think that experience level is really fucking important. And that's what we should want. We should want farmers and bankers and fucking people that work in oil and gas, people that are fucking scientists, and of course some lawyers as well. We want all these people to bring their unique perspective and experience and make the best possible decisions for all of America. That's what I think, right? But that's not what happens.
With the military, is it that because I know non-commissioned officers will sometimes get battlefield promotions, sometimes
very rarely,
or will choose to go get commissioned or whatever.
There's a green to gold program, yeah.
Green to gold. Yeah. Is it because are they reticent to move guys off the front line and then put them in charge because they think they'll be like fatigued from combat and that they'll make bad decisions or that they'll make overly aggressive decisions?
No, I think it's that the officers are the ones who decide that, and it looks bad for them to pull a guy that's a non-commissioned officer.
It looks bad for them,
yeah,
because just of the rank.
They're incompetent. I mean, like, who? If you were part of a flat management situation, you're not exactly reaching down into the office pool looking for new managers, right? You're trying to maintain the power that you have, and it's a problem, I think.
Oh, which would the Romans, I'm sure, Julius Caesar didn't want to lose his command. The commanders don't want to lose their command for whatever reason.
No, it's incredible that he kept Mark Antony with him for so long, to be honest. They were together for years.
Was he trying to overthrow him or something?
No, not at all. It's just like Mark Antony was a pretty ambitious guy, as you saw later in the Second Triumvirate, but he was loyal to the death to Caesar.
Man, I've been studying Caesar because I thought he was the bad guy. I was like, oh, Caesar was an ambitious traitor. And I'm like, oh, okay. So the story is the Optimates were like, which is like Pompey, or I don't know if Pompey was involved. It was the senators were like, Caesar, we want your 10 legions. We want to seize your legions. We want to seize all your, you already have 5 provinces up in Gaul. He was governing like 3 provinces, Cisalpine Gaul, Transalpine Gaul, and something else. And Caesar was like, what the fuck? They're going to strip me of my immunity. They're going to put me on trial, probably have me executed or arrested.
Oh, yeah.
And he's like, no, the answer is no. I'm not giving you the stuff back. And they're like, okay, that's not good enough. And they're like, for 2 years, they're having this debate in the Senate. They're afraid Caesar's going to come back one day and take over Rome. And so he finally comes down to Ravenna, and he's like, with 1 legion, and he's like, I will make a deal with you. I will give up all my territory, 9 of my 10 legions, and I will go east to Croatia and just govern far out there. and be a loyal Roman. And they're still like, not good enough, Caesar. Give us everything. And he's like, you leave me no choice.
Yeah.
And then, so he invades. And
Yeah. I mean, there's some people think he did that all on purpose. Like he was obtuse with their demands. But the Senate was so corrupt. One of my rules is that it is perfectly reasonable not to take a side in a fight between two assholes, right? And that doesn't mean that they were both assholes necessarily, but they both have a reasonable position. Maybe that's a thing where you can just be like, all right, let's see who wins. You know, like that. You don't have to have a hard opinion on every single thing, but it's not smart to just accept when somebody tells you somebody's a villain. Unless you have proof for it, right?
And that's a good point that he was being willfully obtuse. I think he was.
Yeah,
he was a
for
mastermind.
Sure. For sure, he
tactician.
was great, but that he wasn't. He also wasn't wrong. Like the Roman Senate had been corrupted so much that there was no way for it to. There's no way for Rome to continue without an empire. You know what I mean? And the problem of empire is always succession. You know what I mean? Like I don't know that I would say empire is intrinsically bad. The Pax Romana was the best period in all of Roman history, and it was only due to the fact that that Octavian was an excellent leader. I mean, he was an excellent statesman and leader, but his stepson Tiberius was a fucking baby rapist. You know what I mean? And then you get one kind of weak but okay emperor, and then you get Nero and Caligula. So it's like
inbred
fuck,
fucking
man, yeah. They didn't know any of that stuff, but it's like the idea of hereditary succession is stupid. Look at the Habsburgs. I mean, any of these organizations that have done it, you always get. It's like the fucking the Targaryens. You know what I mean? You flip a coin, and it's either a great leader or a fucking madman sometimes, and it gets to that point. And that's true, irrespective of inbreeding too. You raise somebody in affluence like that, and you've got a 50-50 shot that they're a piece of shit. You know what I mean? Especially back then when you're being raised by somebody down the street and the guy's actual king or whatever. But yeah, I think we've got a weird relationship with monarchy in this country. Obviously, for obvious reasons, we were lorded over one, and it's kind of part of our DNA to hate them. But for other people, I think it makes sense, for sure. They have different cultures. So like the thing that we should be talking about foreign policy-wise is, can we deal with a king in Jordan? Yes. He's a very close ally of ours. Can we deal with a king in Saudi Arabia? I mean, he's doing quite a bit to rehab that country, frankly. He's killed quite a few of his own family members who were Wahhabist Muslims to keep them from trying to attack America. So then can we who is it that we can deal with in Iran? Is it a king? Is it a democratically elected leader? Considering how infested that country still is with Islamic Republic people, I can't imagine there's a democratically elected government coming anytime soon because that process is too ripe for corruption. You need somebody who is not a Muslim hardliner, a Persian hardliner. It's like you can do all your Islamic shit if you want. By the way, they've closed like 34 or 35% of the mosque in Iran because people don't attend anymore, right?
Whoa.
Yeah, over the last like 10 years. But you feel free to worship however you see fit. But if you're doing wild ass fundamentalist shit, we're just going to kill you. That's how you have to handle it at first. We just have to kill you. And that's why, Adams takes a lot of heat for the Aliens and Sedition Acts. Rightly so. Probably was a mistake at the time, but I understand why.
Why?
You've got a potential war brewing with France. You've got a potential war brewing with England. All sorts of stuff going on. It's like, okay, well, we can't just have French people walking around if we're going to go to war with France. And then, even FDR with the internment camps. I get it. A fucking country that was willing to fly their planes into our boats and kill themselves to take us down said they declared war on us. Like, okay, well, fuck. You guys got to stand over there while we take care of this and we can adjudicate it later. People think that that's some kind of blemish on American history, but the Japanese at the time didn't feel that way. Almost 40,000 Japanese men volunteered for World War II on the American side out of those internment camps. This is a piece of information that never gets talked about. Why do you think that is? It wasn't because they were offended. because they were like, yeah, it makes sense. But still, this country's better, so I'm going to go fight for it. They made the decision from a fucking internment camp to go fight for this country.
So the Alien and Sedition Act, did they just start arresting French and British people or something?
I don't even know how much it got enforced, to be honest. Like, I don't recall it being that big a deal. But it was popular amongst the government at the time, very unpopular amongst the people, I think, because obviously, I mean, one of our top generals was Lafayette. He was a 24-year-old French guy. You know what I mean?
Oh, he's the man. He should be on Mount Rushmore, in my opinion.
If there was a Mount Rushmore for military commanders, he should definitely be on it. I don't even think George Washington should be on it, to be honest.
I was thinking of Beaumarchais. I apologize. Lafayette's another guy. I was thinking of Beaumarchais, who ran guns to the Americans and research. I thought he should be on the Mount Rushmore. You don't think George should?
I mean, he lost more battles than he won in the Revolution.
Yeah, he was fighting a losing war and turned it around somehow.
Yeah. Well, he turned it around on,
I guess because of the French,
on Christmas of 1775. I think, or is it 76? Maybe it was 76.
Christmas Eve when they crossed the Delaware and slaughtered all those Hessians.
Yeah.
I was going to say Haitians.
No, well, that would have been fun too. No, the war effort was going very poorly. They had lost 3 major battles in a row, and it looked like England and the German mercenaries were going to make a move on them. And he was like, not only the decision to do it, but he did it twice, by the way. It only gets talked about in the terms of one time, but they did it again like 2 weeks later.
Oh.
And they had to go, I don't remember how far south, 20 miles south or something, and take all the boats and chisel away at the fucking ice to be able to get through and stuff. It was a shit show, but then they just murdered everybody.
Was he like a mediocre military commander, but
No, I think he was in a bad position.
Yeah.
He was in a bad position. They were underarmed. I mean, look, you're fighting with farmers, basically. He had his own professional military from Virginia, but the auxiliary corps was just randos, you know what I mean? It was mostly like businessmen and farmers from Massachusetts at the time. So yeah, I mean, it's a tough situation to put in. I don't blame him for that. I'm just saying, you know, for as far as like decisive battle winning, you know, he had other guys that were probably better.
Henry Knox. I don't know how great he was. Do you know how he like went up to Fort Ticonderoga and got all those cannons when they were overseeing Boston?
Oh yeah, they just stole like all the artillery.
Like right before it was a sneak attack before the war really even got started. They took all the artillery, and then he in record time rushes it down to Boston Harbor, and then sets up all these cannons up over Boston Harbor, and they basically make the British that won. I mean, I don't know if it won the war, but there's so many ifs, ands, and buts. If they hadn't been able to take Boston, you know,
it gave us enough time for the French Navy to show up. That's for sure. Which I don't know if we win that war. I mean, we would have had to have retreated from some of the eastern cities had that not happened. For sure.
Yeah.
Anyways, there's a possibility that we can deal with other countries in a way that makes sense if they don't share our cultural values. It's better if they do, but it's not likely that they will for the most of the world.
So you think installing like a benevolent dictator of sorts in...
I don't think installing anybody. I think you set the conditions where a dictator can rise to power and you let him do it. It's important to let these processes happen naturally, in my opinion. Yeah, but I think I don't know if Reza Pahlavi has the strength of character.
I don't know, because 6 months ago he said he wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
Maybe he was supposed to say that. They're like, say you're not going to do it. We don't want to alarm anybody. And then, of course, right after it popped off, he's like, I will do it. And you're like, well, what will you do? What is he going to do? Is he going to rule from here?
Yeah.
I don't know. Is he going to go there? Because that would be a death sentence, I think, for the guy.
Maybe, yeah. I mean, he would definitely need to have. So if he were to go there, the first thing you got to do is kill a bunch of people, right? You have to round up any loyalist to the Islamic Republic and execute some, give some the opportunity to recant and join the new thing. I think good intelligence from Israel would allow people to know who's who in that regard, who's the hardliner and who's just trying to keep their head on their body. And you have to do it brutally, I think, like that. You have to decapitate what's left of that ideology and then start from something new, whatever it happens to be. But I think that's what you got to do.
I used to be really concerned with monarchy, but you're right about democracy being easy to manipulate. And when I heard the story of the the Greek, the benevolent dictator, because I was a dictator, that must be evil. Dictators are evil.
Yeah.
The benevolent dictator that does it all right and then sets it down and gives the people freedom.
The not warrior poet, what is it? Philosopher king. It's what Marcus Aurelius talked about a lot. Philosopher king, like somebody who was who technically had that power but chose not to use it. I mean, that's what when I was it you that mentioned it? Somebody mentioned it recently that we were talking to, but the idea of meekness.
Oh, that was Brandon Herrera, I think, a couple nights ago.
That's right. Yeah, that's something that a lot of people don't understand. Meekness means that you have the power and choose not to use it, not that you're not powerful. So yeah, I think that's an idea. Maybe Pahlavi has it. I don't know. You got to be fucking savage in that part of the world to establish something. I mean, our ancestors were savages too, and then you give. As things calm down, you give more rights, more voting, more rights, more voting, more rights, more voting, until you have some kind of, equality in your society. But it takes time. It takes time to do that in a way that isn't a fucking total shit show, especially when you've been under dictatorial control. You got to keep in mind, it took us time to do it, but for 100 years already, 120 years, we had already been self-governing. We had local assemblies everywhere, state and local assemblies everywhere in the United States already, and it still took us time to figure it out. Imagine a place that's been completely dictatorial and socialist for that long. You know what I mean? It's going to take them some time to figure it out.
Yeah, I wonder if there's people before the revolution that were like didn't know what it was like. I mean, they were still living under a king. It wasn't like they were a republic, but how long does the show go, by the way? I didn't want to keep talking for 80 hours.
Oh, no, we've got to wrap it in like 5 minutes.
Okay, good.
Yeah, keep going.
Fucking great. That, I don't even know, what was I saying? Something awesome about Iran. There would be people that we could tap that are like, you know how it used to be. Let's make it how it used to be and then make it better.
Yeah. I mean, Pahlavi would be a short-term figurehead,
yes,
I think.
100%.
But he would need some pretty serious security to not get his own head cut off.
And he'd probably need other people to like tell him what to do, like who to kill and who not to. And I mean, I don't think he could do it without intelligence.
No, Israel will give it to him. That's the problem, though. You can't seem too buddy with Israel to make that work either. And I don't think that the average Persian person cares about that, but you do have to give them give whomever it is in charge some measure of cover from being called an Israeli puppet. You know what I mean? So what I would recommend is whomever steps into power, the Israeli government helps them behind the scenes and in public says they're an asshole. That would be the smartest way to handle that problem.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens. If you see Israel going after whomever they try to install, and the person isn't just a hardline cleric or something like that, that's probably what they're doing.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. The who is it? Martyr Maid, Daryl Cooper, and Scott Horton. They've got a show. Redact. What is their show called? Is it Redacted? It's not
It might
Redacted.
be redacted. Yeah.
No, that's Lee Camp, I think. I don't know. Anyway, but they got a show on YouTube and it's great. Look them up. Scott Horton, Daryl Cooper. Daryl was saying, we're not going to World War III. We're going to see a quadrupolar world with, it's not going to be multiple. It's going to be 4 poles. It's going to be the United States hegemon in the West. It's going to be Israel as the hegemon in the Middle East. Russia is the hegemon in Asia and Europe, Northern Europe, and China will be the hegemon in East Asia. And those 4 powers will govern the earth in balance. And I'd only ever thought of like 2 great powers in the what do they call it, where whenever 2 great powers arrive, there's always a war, and that it was some philosophy by some philosopher. But a quadrupolar world might actually work and bounce. But at the same time, like, I don't know if the Chinese are actually that anything. They're like a bunch of garbage bureaucrat, living off the tit of the economic, siphon.
I frankly don't take much that Daryl Cooper says seriously. Just because of the stuff he said in the past is wildly inaccurate. But they're onto something there. It's just like the players are probably wrong, and it's more than likely a shared responsibility between Israel and a conglomerate of Middle Eastern countries. That's my opinion, right? But for Asia, I think it's more likely that Japan over the next 25 to 50 years takes over as hegemon of Asia. They're on the come up. China's going down rapidly. China has lied about the amount of people they have. They've over reported population maybe by half a fucking billion. You know what I mean? That's some of the theories, and I think I've seen some pretty decent evidence in that regard. Japan is technologically superior, and we are now assisting them in rebuilding their air force and military, which was a smart thing to do because they started getting the same stuff everybody else was, which is invaded by, or Muslims are trying to come to their country. And they let them for a little while. And then Muslims started making demands, and they're like, you can get the fuck out. They were like, hey, we need to bury our people. Like, we don't do that. We don't bury people here. We burn them. They're like, oh, well, we're Muslim. They're like, yeah, well, you can go be Muslim over there, motherfucker. They banned hijabs, all that stuff. They got, and the just right in their parliament, they're like, you can wear your hijab in your country. You can't wear it here. You got to get the fuck out. That's how you protect the culture. Japan is, in my opinion, America is the superior culture on earth. Japan is number 2, right? And I think a marriage between the two would make a lot of sense. The tradition and ancestor worship from Japan mapped onto what we do here with liberty and stuff like that makes a lot of sense.
I find the samurai fascinating. I mean, you ever study like Oda Nobunaga and the Tokugawa shogunate, all the
No, I haven't.
Oh
but
my
I mean,
God!
Yeah, just like
the Warring States. Well, no, not the Warring States. Is it the Warring States period? Is it the 1400s? What were you gonna say?
Yeah. No, I mean just the level of commitment to principle is something that you can admire. It was all they were an empire, but it was all voluntary. Those corps were all voluntary. You had to volunteer to be a samurai. You didn't get fucking your dad is a samurai, so you are. No, you volunteer for that shit, and it's a lot of sacrifice. And it's because they felt it was it was an honorable thing to do. It was a culture worth defending, and that's how people have to believe to sustain a civilization. If you don't, and that's why these demoralization campaigns happen all the time. That's why all these CCP talking points, CCP and Russian talking points that are like anti-war no matter the situation, or demoralization, America is evil, we're the biggest terrorists in the world, like Dave Smith said. That's just Chinese communist talking points nonsense. Daryl Cooper saying that Churchill is as big a villain as Hitler and stuff like that. That comes straight from the 1950s Chinese Communist Party. That's where they came from. All these ideas.
I missed that statement by him when he was talking about Churchill. That was the big controversial show he did with Tucker Carlson, and he mentioned something about Churchill being the villain.
It's just edgelord nonsense. I don't think that he's. I don't know what he believes, frankly. I just think he's an edgelord. I think most of those guys are. I think Scott Horton believes what he says, for sure.
Oh, yeah.
I disagree with him on foreign policy. I like Scott, though. But, yeah, he's a hardcore libertarian. They're not going to, in my opinion, they're not going to have a good solution for foreign policy.
I asked Scott on, we did a show together. I think it was on his show or my show, one of the two. And I asked him, what do we do, dude? Because right now we're trying to establish hegemony in Middle East. We need the Suez. We need to protect the Suez. Israel's there. It's our nuclear bulkhead to protect and control the Suez. And he's like, we don't need them, man. We don't need them. We got Saudi Arabia. And I'm like, he said it very casually. I mean, Scott, I'm not going to talk about you when I'm not here, Scott, but like, I don't know. It seemed like it was too simplistic.
No, it's not. I don't think so. I think he's just not. Maybe it is too simplistic. We have both right now, and we can have both. So why not? You know what I mean? If we can position ourselves to have both of those guys, that makes a lot of sense for us. Because one group has shared goals. Well, they both have shared goals, but definitely Israel has shared goals, and we're integrated to some degree with them. But the press, when Israel does something versus when Saudi Arabia does something, is wildly different, and it matters. PR matters. You know what I mean? Because we govern by consent of the people here. So you want people to feel good about the stuff you're doing. You also want the country that you're doing stuff in, the people you're trying to help, to feel good about it and not feel like some assholes invading them.
Was it like in Iraq? Was it?
Yeah, that's precisely what it was like. They pretended like they were friendly, but it wasn't like that. They hated us the whole time we were there. So, something to consider. We got to get out of here. Tell everybody where they can find you.
Man, at Ian Crossland is my name. It's usually my tag on all the social medias, YouTube, X. You can find me on Instagram. Check me out. Pretty much every social network you find at Ian Crossland. And then go to graphene.movie. Graphene.movie is this documentary I've been working on. We talked about it yesterday on Drinking Bros. A little bit, for a little while, graphene. And I had the fortune to go down to Rice University over in, what is it? Is that in Dallas? Houston. And I was so insulated, I didn't even know what city I was in. And we just learned so much about upcoming future tech, dude. Like, you're worried about the economy. The material science is the solution to any of these economic problems. A lot of them, the political problems that come downstream, is this material science revolution we're on the cusp of with AI and lasers and God knows. But graphene. Go to graphene.movie. Check out the trailer. Get ready for the action because it's coming. 6'7" Kevin's editing it now. Find me there.
Check it out. Check out Ian Crossland. Check out Timcast, all that stuff. And thank you for listening. This has been Citizen.